Welcome to another edition of Under the Bus, where three old guys who've been around the block a few times extol the virtues of sport, but we also throw a lot of sports people under the bus. I'm Bob Stevens, formerly of ESPN, joined by the legendary Curry Kirkpatrick of Sports Illustrated and the equally legendary Hall of Fame coach, Rich Basirico. We got to begin. I mean, we got so much to do. We got a lot of stuff we would like to do.
College football.
We got to get to the stuff we got.
How about that?
Yeah, college football, playoffs. Every team that's in it and every team that's not in it is mad with how it got done. But we've got four. We don't have we don't have the four best seasons, but we might have the four best teams.
Best teams. What do you think, Rich? I think they got.
Well, Florida State is undefeated, and I know they lost their quarterbacks, and they were saying they got to put the four best teams in there. Alabama should have lost to Auburn. If we take that into consideration, they should have lost to Auburn the week before,
or two or three other times during the season.
They had they had no business winning that game. We won't go over that again. But they said they asked the coaches, who would you not want to play against?
Oh yeah, who you don't want to play?
So you wouldn't want to play.
You mean the coaches on the committee?
Yes.
That's the committee.
Right,
There
yeah.
are at least three coaches.
Correct.
On
So that's what they're going to go by. It's who you don't want to play against. Well, why? Sure, you don't want to play against Alabama.
Well, that's why they're saying they might be the best four teams now, but they did not have the four best seasons. I mean, one of those four best seasons
This was Florida
Well,
State.
it's either the four best or the four most deserving. That's what you got to split that down. Let's get a little history. This thing started in 2014. It's current, the way it's current, and it's always been doomed to failure because you have 5 power conferences for 4 spots. So I don't know why this thing hasn't come to bite them stronger every year. Well, actually it does.
It does.
But it really got them this year.
Yeah.
But
Actually, should it not just be the final two? Just let Michigan and Washington play because they were the two unbeatens that are left.
I got an argument. For you. I got, if you do the eye test, who were the 4 best teams over the weekend?
Yeah.
I would say they were Washington, Texas, which put on a show, which deserved it, and Georgia and Alabama, which played another classic game. I got Michigan out. I don't have Michigan number 1. I have Michigan out. Of course, I'm not that objective. I'm not a Harbaugh guy. And he didn't disappoint me. When they interviewed him after the selection, he went all God squad on us. Yeah. He said God has put his hand on this team all year. Well, did God have his hand on when he was suspended for 6 games? I mean, the guy was out for 6 games, Harbaugh. That's about half the season, right?
That's half.
What kind of coach? I mean, how good a coach is this guy? I mean, they won without him.
Well, I think the committee actually put it to him when they had him play in the first round, Alabama.
Well, did you see the mood in the room?
Yeah,
and they were all celebrating?
I think okay, we're going to get Michigan for cheating. He's been suspended for 6 games. Let's screw him again. Let's now have him play Alabama in the first round.
Well, and they announced Alabama, and the Michigan room went practically quiet. Oh no.
Right.
Because Saban, Harbaugh and Saban have played each other twice in bowls. Both have been blowouts. I think the first. They opened the season in 2012, and then I wrote it down, and then I think the Citrus Bowl in 2020, they were 3 touchdown blowouts. So Harbaugh wants no part of Saban.
Absolutely.
I got Harbaugh went all over this thing. They've got a mantra this year. It's BET, bring everyone together. That was Harbaugh. He kept saying BET. This is after the selection. BET, bring everyone together. I got a BET for him. Yeah. Bet everything on the Tide. That's what I got. I mean, come on, yeah. I mean,
totally
it's 31-12 that game.
You think?
I think so. Wow. I mean, I don't like Michigan though. I don't like the Big Ten. I think it's a fake good league. It's fake. Who did Michigan beat? Ohio State and Penn State. They beat them every year, Rich. They beat them every year. It's like automatic.
Last couple, anyway.
Who else? Well, the last couple, that's what we're talking about.
Okay.
I mean, what is the deal with the Big Ten? I don't, they run everything except the SEC.
They could have punished them even more. They could have sent them to the Sugar Bowl, which is what they did to Washington. I mean, Washington's not going to Pasadena.
Right.
Hello?
Well, that's the way. Well, they could have stacked them, but they gave Washington number 2 spot, which means they aren't going to play.
But they
Michigan.
But not necessarily Michigan and Washington playing each other. In fact, Washington should have gotten, if they really wanted to punish Michigan, don't send them out to Pasadena. Send them to New Orleans.
Right.
Play Alabama there.
Well, they got Washington,
And-
Texas, and New Orleans, which is actually
Which helps Texas.
well, I think it's been a great game. I think
It'll
it's
be a good game, but I'm
I mean,
saying
it's
that,
a rematch of the Alamo Bowl last year, which Washington won
Did they?
27-20, and it was a shootout, Penix and Ewers of Texas.
Okay.
It was a great game.
You
I
remember
remember
it?
seeing it. No, I remember
Yeah,
seeing
yeah.
it. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. That's when I first saw Penix.
Okay.
Who, by the way, we'll get into Heisman
Yeah.
later, but yeah, I think that's going to be a really good game.
all right.
Should be. Well,
I mean,
Tom-
I
Tom
love
will tell.
Washington. I think Washington will win the whole thing.
I was
really do.
surprised. I said last week Oregon will win that game, and
Yeah.
I was surprised Washington won. I really was.
You know what?
But they controlled the game right from the opening
Put that
kickoff.
chip on their shoulder that you're a 10-point underdog
Right.
to a team you've already beaten. That's
right. I
Well-
think that was a motivation
Oh,
factor for them.
absolutely it was. All right.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Don't you think?
And,
Do we
and,
know
you
a coach who would use that?
Absolutely, for sure. That would be written all over the board, for
You'd be
sure.
all over that.
But to get back
Yes.
to Alabama, I think, the two most powerful people in college football are Lou, what's his name? Lou, what am I talking about?
Talking about Saban, Nick Saban.
Nick Saban.
Lou
This-
Saban
Lou
was a
Saban,
coach
Lou
a
Hall.
Nick
long
Tater.
time
Lou
ago.
Saban
Yeah.
talked to Buffalo Bills.
Yeah.
Nick, that's how old I am. Nick Saban, who I call the Nicktator, and the commissioner of the SEC, Greg Sankey. And Sankey had the best line prior to the selection committee. He said, they asked him what would happen if the SEC would be left out.
Yeah.
And he said, wait a minute, let's talk about reality. Let's talk about Sesame Street. On Sesame Street, they do reality, say, this one thing is different from all the other things. And the one thing different from all the other things is the Southeastern Conference. And I think he's right. And, I mean, I think the Georgia team is the team that got screwed here. I mean,
Well,
they've
they lost the last
they
game of the
lost the big-
season.
That's one loss.
yeah,
That one
right,
loss
right.
to Alabama. It was close. It was another classic. And they didn't have, their two receivers were hurt.
Well, then, there you
Well,
go,
then
Florida
they're not as
State.
good a
Yeah.
team. Yeah,
Right,
then
they're not as
they
good
should
a
be
team.
playing Florida
Well-
State, which they are in the Orange
the
Florida
Orange
State
Bowl.
gets a player
But
hurt, and they can't.
And what's that
defensively-
score? What's that score? Alabama, Florida State
I
in
do
the
know.
Orange Bowl. What's that score?
Well, they beat them bad.
38-12.
Yeah, I give Kirby Smart a little bit of credit because he's the one guy who hasn't whined through all of this, and
Well-
and they've got to whine if they
But
want one. But
he did some great politicking after the game.
Well, yeah.
He said,
You
"Look,
gotta
let's
do
let's
that.
look at the four best teams." In fact, he said, if somebody can look at these two teams that played today, and those aren't two of the best four, this is Kirby Smart.
Yeah.
And of course, Saban does that. I mean, at the closing whistle, Saban starts politicking. He does that. He did it last year, and it didn't work. He did it this year, and it worked.
It always does.
So,
It usually
yeah.
always does.
Yeah,
Yeah. All right. With all that going on this week, we've also had the transfer portal open up. And if you need a quarterback, or even if you want 3 or 4, they're all
They're
out there
out
to be
there.
had. 28 quarterbacks on the first day.
Is that right?
Boom, into the portal. Division I, starting quarterbacks, boom, into the
From
portal.
good schools where they had
That's-
success.
that's
So
what I'm saying.
Why
The
are they
Ohio State-
transferring? Why do they have one
The
in
Ohio
league?
State quarterback's in the portal.
Oklahoma.
The Oklahoma quarterback who might go to Mississippi State to be with his coach who just took the head job there.
Duke.
And Cam Ward at Washington State, the Duke quarterback.
Riley?
The
Leonard?
curious quote I've seen from all of this, Nebraska coach Matt Rule, who ought to be shopping, says you can have one of those front end quarterbacks.
$2 million. It's unbelievable when he said that,
Yeah,
but that's what
just
it is.
Put it right out there. That's the
That's
going
the
price.
NIL. That's the NIL. And
That's
how
why
about,
they're leaving.
How about the
Because they're all about
quarterbacks? How
money.
about the quarterbacks that aren't going into the portal, but that aren't playing in the bowl games? Caleb
Hold on.
Williams not
Yeah,
playing in the
that-
bowl game.
I get that now.
I don't get it.
Well,
I mean,
nowadays, that goes. I mean, nobody plays in the bowl game.
except
Christian McCaffrey didn't play in the
except,
Let's
bowl
not
game.
have
except
bowl
my boy,
games then, except
my
for the
boy
playoffs.
Drake May. I
Will he
think is
play?
going to play in the Mayo Bowl.
You think so?
May in the Mayo Bowl. I got it. Yeah, I got
They're going
that.
to change the name of the game for him.
Well,
They're gonna
if
put
he
it out in the
doesn't,
center
if
of
he
the
doesn't
field, you know.
play, if he doesn't play, the crowd will be cut in half, right?
Yeah.
And nobody will watch it.
Sure.
But, whatever.
The Mayo Bowl, that's your favorite bowl,
I
isn't
know, I know. You can't spell Mayo Bowl without Mac Brown. And that's my school, but
I
I'm not going
know,
to say
eh?
anything more about that. Come on.
it? You said he's the best quarterback in college
I want to
football.
go back. I want to go back to the Florida State deal, though.
Oh.
Why they're, in one respect, they should blame themselves, and because Florida State and the
won every
ACC.
game.
Well, all spring, their President Alford, who by the way came out and said that the committee should be disbanded. It's a, joke that we didn't get in. He's the same guy that was trashing his own league all spring for Florida State to leave the ACC because we're better than anybody else. He trashed the whole league all spring, and now at the end, chickens come home to roost.
And was not the ACC
Karma.
one of the ones? Weren't they? Not one of the
That
leagues
voted
that delayed.
against-
delayed the 12-teamer for a year.
Yeah, this
which
thing was supposed to be,
got them in.
this year was
Yeah.
supposed to be 12 teams,
Yeah.
but the alliance, the Big Ten, the ACC, and the Pac-12 voted no, we'll delay it. And if they hadn't voted that way, Florida State would be playing in 3 weeks, playing Liberty or somebody in 3 weeks in the 12-team deal.
So who's going to be the
Florida
13th
State
team
Liberty
next year?
in the toilet bowl.
There's a lot of toilet bowls out there
Oh
right now.
man, there's got to be some bad ones.
Oh, Rich and I were talking about some
Yeah.
of these bowls. You know, there's a LA bowl game
Yeah.
sponsored by Gronk. That's
yeah,
the name
Gronk.
of the
Yeah,
bowl.
yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, he'll be there. Well, at least he'll show up. All right. Up next, the three of the best of those quarterbacks that we've been talking about, and maybe a guy better than all of them. Finalist for the Heisman Trophy, and Sports Illustrated, Curry's alma mater, has picked its Sports Person of the Year. Oh, we're going to throw that under the bus coming up next.
Uh-oh.
Welcome back to Under the Bus. Bob Stevens along with Rich Basirico and Curry Kirkpatrick. Let's begin with your alma mater, Sports Illustrated, once the bastion of sports journalism. We all grew up reading it. We all grew up believing it. We all knew that it had a high place.
And we went to the mailbox each
Every day.
Thursday.
We look forward to every week.
Absolutely.
Sports Illustrated for sure.
I did too before I ever went there.
Okay, and they of course have been sold, and they are now run by
Sold like four times in the last 5 years, something like that.
somebody's just
And it's
living
now-
off their name.
And it's now a monthly.
Yeah.
And, it still has terrific writing and still terrific pictures, but I don't think, I think, it's going to go by the wayside of all magazines. It's going to be a website.
Yeah.
It's going to be on a website.
Well, and
It's
that's
very
how I
sad.
used to have read it the last few years. Once SI first went to that before they started selling, and did that anyway.
Well, about the Sportsman.
Sportsman of the
yeah.
Sports Person of the Year
Sports-
Oh, please.
is
getting
Deion
sick.
Sanders.
What's
Well,
that based on, Curry?
I
Getting it.
can defend that. I'll give you a little
All right.
history on this too. I worked at Sports Illustrated for 30 years, and of course, the Sportsman started off being Sportsman, then went to Sportswoman,
Right.
went to Sports Person, and there's some great stories. The best story was before I even worked there, but Sports Illustrated started in 1954. Their Sportsman of the Year was Roger Bannister,
Yes.
who broke the 4-minute mile. Okay, 1955 it comes along. And in those days, Sports Illustrated was run, edited, and written by a lot of Eastern elitists, Ivy Leaguers. They hobnobbed with rich Eastern establishment. So they were going to
Harvard Yale was a big game.
exactly, and they were going to name a guy named William Woodward Jr. Sportsman of the Year. He was a horseman. He, Harvard, Yale, the whole deal. And everybody knew him. He was a huge social guy in Social Network in New York. And they, as I told you guys before, Sports Illustrated had to name their sportsman way before December. They usually chose them in September, October, because it took that long to do photo shoots, get the story arranged, et cetera, et cetera. So they were going to name William Woodward Sportsman of the Year. In November of *55, William Woodward was shot dead by his wife after coming home from a party a dinner party to celebrate the Duchess of Windsor. That's how big time these people were. It was a huge story. This was a huge scandal in New York because they both come home from a party. They went to separate bedrooms. They both had guns with them, and she shot him and said that she thought he was an intruder. It was dark. The whole deal, an intruder. Life magazine called this the shooting of the century. Wow. So now Sports Illustrated, this was going to be their Sports in the Year. This was in November. All of a sudden, they crashed. They can't have this guy Sports in the Year. So they choose a journeyman pitcher from the Brooklyn Dodgers named Johnny Padres, who happened to win the 7th game of the World Series that year. Johnny Padres became the Sportsman of the Year.
That's well, he should have been being a Dodger left-hander. That's good
But
stuff.
the William Woodward
Because he
is-
won the seventh
was-
game of the World Series. That's
Yeah.
why he's Sportsman of the Year.
Well, they had to go with somebody. They were scrambling.
tell us why
They had
Dion is
nobody-
Sportsman of the Year.
Well, not
What did he do?
well. Okay, let's go back. SI always has gone to a sports person of the year for what they do, not only on the field but off the field.
Okay.
And I would put it that Dion has become a cultural icon. He's a hero to the Black America.
I agree.
He became this black coach. All black coaches and all black players have loved this idea of Deion Sanders. And, as you put it, for a month, he might have been Sportsman of the Month. He certainly was Sportsman of the Fall. I mean, he was the biggest name.
For a month.
Not just,
for a
well,
month.
for the fall. I'll say for the fall because he's still making waves. And Sports Illustrated always wanted to choose somebody that would get people talking, make a splash. So I will defend it in that way. And there also, now you can bring up some names, and I'll bring up one, Ohtani. If Ohtani had not gotten
Ohtani
hurt,
could be, yeah.
I think, but he got hurt.
Yep.
And there weren't many big splash names this year, really, teams or players.
Djokovic wins 3 of the 4
Yep.
majors, loses the other one in the finals to this young up-and-coming superstar. He's 36, and he did this. I mean, do that in tennis.
That's a good vote. And I was when I was
Yeah.
at the magazine, I was always encouraging tennis
Sure.
players. In fact, I campaigned for Chris Evert. She got on the
remember.
cover. I campaigned,
And that cover, by the way, was probably on my wall as a kid
well,
at about that age.
Djokovic is a good shot, but he's not very popular.
No,
not only in tennis, but in the world.
And he
he's
doesn't
an-
get anybody
he
talking.
was an
I mean,
he was an anti-vaxxer and the
right,
whole deal.
yeah.
I think that played into this. But I want to tell another story.
Yeah.
A decade after 1955,
Yeah.
I was a high school student, and I wrote a letter to Sports Illustrated protesting their Sportsman of the Year that year. And it got published.
Oh.
I was published in Sports Illustrated before I was even in college.
Okay.
So I'll pat myself on the back for that. No, but that year,
There.
that
Wait,
year,
we haven't
I
used
got
the
the
bell
bell.
yet.
I'm gonna pat him, too.
We now have a bell.
I thought it was 1961. I thought they should have voted Roger Maris Sportsman of the Year. He hit 61 home runs, broke Babe Ruth's record. They didn't have him in Sportsman of the Year, so I wrote a letter protesting this.
Yeah.
But who
The
was it?
Sportsman of the Year that year was Jerry Lucas, the basketball player at Ohio State, who'd won the championship for the second year in a row. But anyway, I got
And one of
published.
the smartest guys ever.
Knew the dictionary back and forth,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Jerry
yeah,
Lucas.
yeah.
But that's getting off the point
Right.
here, right? I mean, I got published in a letter.
There
Come
you
on.
go.
Come on.
Okay, that's fantastic. I got one other, besides Djokovic,
Throw it.
as good as Deion Sanders. Maybe not quite Deion Sanders, but maybe Taylor Swift.
Taylor Swift. Right?
Should get people talking about sports.
Well, I think Kelsey. I think they would have named Kelsey
Or
and
go
Taylor
to-
Swift.
together.
Been
There
a
you
couple,
go.
yeah,
Yeah,
a
maybe.
couple of the year. Sports
Couple of
couple of the year by a long shot.
I can go with Dion as long you say what he does in the community. If he's doing a lot out in the
is.
community, which they say he is,
Yeah.
then sure, let's do it. But again, he won 4 games. Everybody was losing their mind of what he accomplished as a coach over at Colorado, and then they went downhill from
Yeah,
there.
they did.
Didn't win
They did.
another
They
game.
did.
But
But
if it's
again-
based on performance,
Well,
is that
again,
what this is based
again,
on?
In fact, I
I'll-
believe his son is now in the portal. He's one of those 28
Is that
quarterbacks
right?
in the portal.
His
yeah.
son went to the portal.
Yeah.
Again,
come back.
I will defend the magazine in this respect, that they choose the Sportsman of the Year way before December.
Right.
And now that it's a monthly magazine, they even have a harder deadline.
Okay.
I would bet money that they decide on Dion in October.
Probably so.
And decided not
Probably
to
so.
And
change.
if you had to pick it in October,
Yeah.
Maybe
he
so,
was not a
yeah.
bad choice.
Yeah, right.
Before he lost 8 of his last 9 and finished dead last in the conference.
Oh, you're throwing him under the bus again.
There you go. He goes under the bus.
Such
All
a
right.
hater. You're such a hater.
Speaking of the NFL,
next.
up next, we're going to shrink this true Super Bowl contending field down a little bit, even further than we did last week. We're going to throw in some pro football, some college basketball. We're going to throw some college basketball folks under the bus. Rich is looking forward to that when we come back. Welcome back to Under the Bus. Bob Stevens along with Rich Basirico and Curry Kirkpatrick. We got a little of Taylor Swift in the last segment.
I got to get some more.
But we never
of
get
her.
enough. Yeah,
She shows up again for the Kansas City game. You know, she's 4-0 until
Not
this
anymore.
weekend.
Okay.
Not anymore. But she shows up in a Stella McCartney red coat and a Cartier necklace. She looks spectacular. But she had to share some time this week with another wag, and that would be Simone Biles, the great gymnast, whose husband is a defensive back for the Packers. And let's go to the end of the game.
So
now we go to the end of the game.
But
she got as much. I think Simone got as much airtime as Taylor though in the game.
That's NBC in the Olympics.
Well, whatever.
Olympic
Oh,
year,
that's
you gotta
right.
do that.
Yeah,
But, and they, hey, NBC, that's a tough one in the truck because they gotta promote Simone because she's the Olympic person. She's the face of it. They got to promote Taylor because the public demands it, and then they got to show a football game too, which is kind of hard to do.
Isn't that the
between all
important
those
part of
cutaways.
the
Well, no,
telecast?
I'm not sure it is the important part. Anyway,
Well, go to the end of the game.
Let's go to the end of the game.
Simone Biles' husband is Jonathan Owens, I think is his name. Jonathan Owens is a defensive back.
okay.
And he broke up the Hail Mary at the end of the game by pushing Taylor Swift's boyfriend, Kelsey, 2 hands in the back, no call. Of course, they never call. They never call PI on
the end of the game, never.
on the end of the game.
In any sport.
But prior to that, Rich, there was another PI that wasn't called. Did you see that?
I did not.
Oh, it was brutal.
Yeah.
On Scantling, and Mahomes threw a great pass to Scantling, and the defensive back, a guy named Valentine, Collington Valentine,
Okay.
was all over. I mean, he jumped on his back, no call. The announcers went berserk. Everybody's talking about this. You know, there was no call on the PI. You know, if they get that, if it was been about on the 5-yard line, Kansas City goes in and wins the game.
Yeah.
So there are two
Happens a lot.
two non-calls.
And in a moment, we're going to talk about non-calls.
Right.
And
Well,
all
talking
that.
about non-calls
We're
in
talking
football,
about-
did you see
yeah.
Troy in their playoff game? Their quarterback had held on the face mask, and they didn't call it, and the coach ran onto the field. I mean, he ran down the sidelines onto the field. He was so livid. The coaching staff had to hold him back. He was so upset because the call wasn't made. And it's obvious. I mean, the guy ripped.
End of the game? Cost
No,
the
it was
game?
during the game.
Oh.
But didn't make the call.
Troy won the game.
A face mask non-call? That's-
Non-call.
Get that in high school games.
But
College games.
it
Come
was
on.
so obvious.
Come on,
It's so
Rich.
obvious that they don't make the call. I was just looking at
I'm
the
going to go
coach,
back
how
to
he
the
ran down
I'm
the
going to go back to the
field.
Kansas City game.
All right.
Because, you know, Biles' husband
Yes.
takes care of Taylor's boyfriend. I think, you know, we should settle this with Taylor and Biles, except Simone. I'm afraid Simone would do a cartwheel off the high beam onto Taylor's dance moves, and it would be all over. I think, I'm afraid. But that would be wag on wag crime, right?
Oh, no.
The wag.
Could she even reach up to Taylor? Is she tall enough
That's
to even
it.
reach
Yeah,
up
Taylor,
to her?
Yeah,
Taylor
might
can post
be
her up.
Taylor go like this, like her, go,
Yeah.
too small.
You post her up on the block.
Besides the 49ers, after their huge win over the Eagles, is there anybody, you handle the 49ers the Super Bowl trophy now, or do
Well,
we?
well, who do you like?
wait.
Who do you like better, the Deebo Samuels or
Ooh, he's
or
good.
McCaffrey?
They're both.
mean, I don't
good.
know.
They're
mean,
both good.
I
They
mean-
bring different things to the table.
yeah.
But you think about, you know, Eagles have been winning last couple of games, coming from behind. Hurts was not very good.
San
Sunday night.
Francisco's defense is pretty good.
Right, but he held on to the ball too long. He stayed in the pocket and held on to it. His quarterback rating was 85.2.
In that game?
Yeah, that's not very good.
Well, how about the hate quotient in this game?
Yeah, these
you know,
two teams
the
don't like each other.
49ers talked trash the whole week. Then they all showed up in black. Did you see this?
No.
They all showed up in black at the game, and then they proceeded to beat Philadelphia's butts.
They did
I mean,
beat
how about the
the Butts.
fight?
At Philly.
How about the sideline?
Yeah.
The
How
security
about-
guy, how
Oh,
about
the
that?
security- the
I love it.
security guy.
And he's a paisan, too.
And he
He's got all
gets
the-
ejected. Yeah. That's
Well, that was Greenlaw, the defensive back for the 49ers, slammed Devontae Smith to the ground, slammed him to the ground. and they get into it heated, and your boy Big Dom DiCaprio or whatever his name is. I got his name down here. What was his name? Dom.
He's a paisan.
He's a. But did you see?
Don't you want him on the sideline?
He's the head of security.
I know.
And he pushed.
Protected
pushes-
Oh, but the other guy pushed his hand
No,
in
he's
his
pushed
face.
the 49 player. You don't put your hands on any player. That's a total
No.
crime. So then he put his nose into Dom's face, Big Dom. This is a security guy wears glasses. What security guy wears glasses, for God's sake? Then he goes
we
off
see
and
his
is standing, and they
size.
threw him out. They threw the
Both
49er
guys.
player out, and they threw the security guard
Right.
out, and he got a standing ovation
I
as he
love
leaves
that.
the ground.
I absolutely love that. He got
Well,
a standing ovation.
But you think that was even Steven?
No,
Throw the-
because you lose a linebacker. No, I don't
Just
think
because
he
he
was.
put Paisano, the security guard's wearing glasses. You gonna fight
What
with
does that
glasses?
mean?
Are you
Well,
kidding?
are you going to fight
Come
that
on.
guy as big as he was?
Well,
Are you kidding me?
if he's wearing glasses, I'd take a shot at his eyes.
Eagles
Come on,
Cowboys
come on.
this weekend. What do you
Ooh,
think?
Cowboys.
Did we find out about if the Cowboys are for real? They have not beaten a team with a winning record.
Is that right? They have
They
not.
got 9 wins and they have not beaten a team with a winning
It'd be
record.
great if they
we'll
lost.
find
It'd
out
be great if they
Sunday,
lost
won't we?
again, but I don't think they
We'll
will.
see. They're
think
playing
they're
well.
not.
Dallas is playing very, very well, and
And it-
Philly has not.
Dallas has to play Philly, then go to Buffalo, then go to Miami,
Miami.
and finish with Detroit.
Wow.
They got a good little gauntlet.
Good thing they don't have to play the Giants.
The Giants. or the Patriots. Yeah.
Oh, the best thing about
Yes.
the Dom, the security guard, was
Yes.
10 minutes before this fight happened
Yeah.
with Big Dom, the Fox announcers, Kevin Burkhardt and Greg Olson, went on and on about the security guard that every time they show up in Philadelphia, he recommends a restaurant for them. And they were going on and on about this. They said, oh, we're so full from last night, and Dom gave us the restaurant again, and Dom this, Dom that. And nobody knew what they were talking about.
Yeah.
And then 10 minutes later, he becomes a national figure. Getting in this fight, it was great. It was-
I think he wanted to go to the restaurant and get a meatball hero.
There you go.
That's what
I
happened.
don't know.
Not much else. Oh, the one stat I was going to give you.
By the way, if
Yes.
the Eagles lose to Dallas,
Yeah.
they're tied for the division, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's an important game. The one stat: Chargers do not score a touchdown,
They still win.
and they still cover.
They
Wow.
covered.
They cover. They win 6-0 over the Patriots, and they cover
That-
without
ugly
scoring a
games.
touchdown.
That was
That's
an
How
ugly game.
bad?
Oh,
How
that's an ugly
bad are the
game.
Patriots? What's going to happen to Belichick?
He's
I mean,
gone.
Kraft's got to say so
He's
long.
not going to fight. He's going to let him walk.
Yeah.
He'll walk on his
Yeah.
own.
yeah.
I'll say, where's it?
gotta happen.
Let me ask you this: Where's Belichick coaching next year?
San Diego.
Warm weather, really?
He's an assistant coach at the Naval Academy. Remember, Army
he
Navy
wants to
is
get-
this coming weekend
Yeah.
in New England, and in fact, Belichick is hosting. Belichick has a box because they play Thursday night, so he won't have to coach. So he has a box, maybe Kraft's box,
At Army Navy game?
At
Oh, that's
Army
right.
Navy.
It's at Gillette.
and at Gillette.
Oh, it's at Gillette,
and he's
yeah.
going to be hosting the two great quarterbacks from back in the '60s, Raleigh Stitchway
Stitchway,
from Army,
wow, yeah.
and a guy named Roger the Dodger.
Roger Staubach is going to be with Bill
He may-
Belichick.
He may try to get Staubach to quarterback the
Yeah,
last
really.
2 or 3 games.
I used to.
of the
My
season.
dad used to take me to the Army Navy game. I saw Raleigh
Really?
Stitchway
You
and
went all the time?
Roger Staubach. In the
Oh,
early
yeah.
'60s,
Army
it was
there is-
awesome. And the game should be played in Philly. That's where it's.
Yeah,
meant to
why are they
play.
playing in Gillette?
I
I
don't
think
know.
I like the idea. I
like
we
moving
should
around?
take it around
Move
a
it
little
around.
bit.
Really?
The rest of the country should see how cool Army and Navy
Yeah,
is.
it's
Now,
cool, but let
it's
me-
probably
let me-
coolest because of Philadelphia, but yeah,
It's cool, but let me pull out a stat. LSU played Army early in the season,
Yeah.
62-0, 62-0. I mean, that's Army.
That,
Come
that,
on.
that,
I
that
mean,
gets us to the
whatever.
to a place we got to go real quick. Heisman. We did
Heisman.
not talk Heisman. Just a quick pick on the Heisman. Pick it.
Well,
Curry.
the guy from LSU, what's his name? I can't even remember his name. You know his name.
Yeah, Jaden Watkins
Jaden
Daniels. Jaden Daniels.
Jaden Daniels
Yeah, yeah.
is still the pick in Vegas to win the Heisman Trophy. I don't understand it.
I don't either.
I mean,
I don't
his
think that's gonna
his
happen.
numbers are bigger than anybody, but he beats Army 62-0. They beat Central Florida or somebody.
He loses to Florida State and has a bad game and does not.
His
put up any
numbers are against Army, Grambling,
Yeah.
and Georgia Central or somebody.
I don't think
mean,
he's going to win it, Curry.
Well-
I really don't.
we both agree that Penix Jr. from Washington should win the Heisman
I would
Trophy.
agree with you.
Yeah, and Nix should be right there with him.
Well,
Yeah.
Nix was the favorite, your boy Bo
Yeah.
Nix. He's beaten Bo Nix twice, and he's led his team to an undefeated season. If that isn't a Heisman Trophy winner, I don't know what is.
And that would be he's the leader of an undefeated team that never looked flustered. They never looked
Yeah.
nervous. When Oregon scored 21 in a row on them
Right.
and had them down,
And he's
they walked out, sashayed out into the huddle, and boom.
Here we go.
Yeah,
Marched
he's got-
right down the field and scored.
he's got the best receiving core in the country.
Yeah.
And he's left-handed, and he's so accurate. I don't know if you've seen him much, but
He's really
boy,
accurate.
this guy, I mean, he's incredible
But
accuracy.
He's the guy, as I've mentioned before, voting on the Heisman. I've asked coaches, so who do you, he says, who would you give the ball to and say, go win the game? Give the ball to
That's
Penix,
my
he'll
guy.
figure it out.
That's my
I
guy.
mean, although the best player in college football right now is probably Marvin Harrison Jr. at Ohio State.
Junior.
He's fantastic.
He's awesome.
He
He is.
And boy, if I'm drafting, I'm picking him before I'm picking any of those quarterbacks.
Really?
In
You
the
think
draft.
would,
he'll go
yeah. There's no
number
guarantee
one?
with those
I think he'll
quarterbacks.
I
go
don't know
number.
if he'll-
I think
no,
he'll
he
go
won't
number
go
two.
number one.
Go number two.
Yeah, somebody. Yeah.
The
Anyway,
Bears are going to take him.
all right.
College
Now
basketball.
college basketball. We've got all
So
this way. We got to get you to
we
your
had
sport.
5 top 20 teams lose on Saturday.
And 3 in the top 7.
3 in the top 7. First time it's ever happened. 3 on the same day. 3 teams in the top 7. I mean, Purdue loses to Northwestern, which Northwestern beat them last year. Marquette loses to Wisconsin, which isn't crazy.
Which is a blood rivalry.
Yeah,
That's
but-
as big a rivalry
Yeah.
as Carolina
yeah,
Duke.
that's not a crazy loss.
And they beat them last year too. Wisconsin beat Marquette last year.
Duke loses to Georgia Tech. Never should happen.
Whoa.
Georgia Tech.
whoa.
That should not happen. Georgia Tech is at the bottom of the ACC. That should not happen.
No. But wait a minute. They beat Mississippi State the previous week, so they've beaten 2 ranked teams.
Okay.
And who's the new coach? The
Stoudemire.
Damon Stoudemire.
Yeah.
He's done wonders with Georgia
He
Tech.
has.
They're not going to finish last in the ACC.
No,
I guarantee you.
No, but they were preseason. They were
Well,
selected
whatever.
to come to. Okay,
Did
the
you
biggest
see the
one
end of
is
that game? Did you see
No,
the
I
end of
didn't
that
see the
game?
end
Well,
of
I
the
just
game.
want to point out, I think Duke, of course, Duke is one of my great loves. They're missing Krzyzewski. I mean, what's his name, has been there. This is his second year.
Correct.
Shire, yeah.
But at the end of the game, Mark Mitchell, sophomore from Duke, dunks the ball to go ahead.
Points
and
his
then
finger.
he points his finger at the Georgia Tech guy. They tee him up. Georgia Tech goes, shoots the free throws, makes the basket, gets possession, and wins the game. Do you think Krzyzewski's coaching Mark Mitchell? He's going to point at a guy?
No,
I don't
and
think
the
so.
officials wouldn't
I
have
don't
called
think
it
so.
Krzyzewski
No,
was
no,
the coach.
you got all the
call
calls.
never would have been made.
That's true.
Never would
That's
have been
true.
made.
That's true.
All right, here's
We've got
the
a
other
couple
one.
of calls you want to talk about, though,
Kentucky losing to UNCW, North Carolina, Wilmington. They lost to East Carolina the week before, and then they come in and win at Rupp.
Well, you
Wow.
know, UNC Chapel Hill, Kentucky, is a great rivalry, which will continue next week in Atlanta.
Good.
Kentucky against UNC Wilmington is not so much.
That shouldn't happen, especially on their home floor.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Nova loses to Drexel. Can Nova beat anybody in
In
Philly?
Philadelphia, no.
They can't.
You know, the joke is, well, they lost to St. Joe's, they lost to Penn
Right.
before
And
before they went to Bahamas, have a great Bahamas, then come back, lose to St. Joe's, and lose to Drexel.
Right.
The
Which
joke
is
in Philadelphia is they're the 6th worst team in the Big Five.
They missed Jay Wright.
Yeah, they
Villanova
really
missed
missed Jay
Jay
Wright.
Wright, for sure.
And what's his name? Kyle Neptune, King Neptune, is in deep water.
He's in
Because
deep water.
they've got to go to Kansas State this week, then play UCLA in a TV game, and then go to Creighton. They could
That's
lose
tough.
3 more right away.
Absolutely, they could, for
Yeah,
sure.
Villanova.
All right,
At the
we're
same
running out of time.
Okay.
Even on something that doesn't have any time on it. Go ahead.
Okay, so we got two games. Vermont, Yale, 3.8 seconds. The team's down 5 points. They win the game. They drive the length of the court, go in for a layup, uncontested layup. Obviously, they're pressing. They get a call an offensive charge against Yale's player. They get the ball to bounce, kick it back in. Kid hits a 3 and gets fouled. So they scored 6 points in 3.8 seconds. How many times have you ever seen that? Now, Yale's an Ivy League school. But can we use our head a little bit here?
That's your record, right? That's your
Jeez,
record.
3.8,
Have we got time
6
for
points.
TCU Georgetown?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Ending of the game?
TCU Georgetown,
Tell
at
me
the end of the
about that.
game, they're down by 2 with how many seconds? Not 2 seconds, maybe 3
Yeah, but
seconds.
they-
Throw it to beyond half court.
Right.
Guy catches, turns and throws it, hits off the backboard, goes in. Great shot. but he stepped out of bounds. He was out of bounds. They showed the replay 100 times. He's out of bounds. They can't overturn it because they can't go to they can't. It's not a replay.
Here's the rule. Here's the
Okay,
rule.
tell
The
us the
refs
rule.
cannot review an out-of-bounds call that wasn't made live. In other words, if they saw it live and made the call, then be fine.
Well,
They
the
can't-
official was
they can't
standing
change
right
it.
there.
Well,
He should have seen it. But
but
on
they-
top
it's
of
a
that, why
stupid
can't
rule. We
yeah, it's
understand
stupid.
it.
Why can they not?
Hit the bell, Rich. There you go.
Absolutely.
All
The
right,
official's
but
standing
I want
looking
to
right
but
there.
the guy that made the shot, you're blowing the lead here. The guy that made the shot, his
Right.
name is Emmanuel Miller. He had 29 points.
Okay.
Emmanuel. I mean, right
Emmanuel
around the
was standing-
Christmas season.
but he
Right
was
around the
standing out of
Christmas
bounds.
season,
Emmanuel.
Emmanuel is a Christmas carol.
Yep.
So that's
O
why
come,
he
O
got
come,
it.
Emmanuel.
Yeah.
Emmanuel means God is with us.
Well,
So
obviously he was.
Oh, God was, and a great Christmas.
Wait a minute. He was with Michigan.
Great Christmas story.
But on top of that, why would that not be if you step out of bounds or you inbounds or out of bounds? Why would that not be something you could watch on replay?
Because he's Emmanuel, and God is with us, and Emmanuel wins the game at Christmas time.
Because you coaches,
O come,
we didn't make it a
Emmanuel.
rule.
But a
Out.
Make that a
replay, if you
rule.
have a replay, that's a one. We have to listen to these guys look at replays for 6 minutes before the play continues. But we can't have a replay of the guy stepping out of bounds.
Make
Come
it
on
a
now.
rule.
We should. We're gonna write to the commissioner.
Emmanuel Miller.
right.
O come, Emmanuel.
We may keep this
Out.
going, but we're going to close this up. Thanks to Trey and the crew at USC Beaufort and our producer, Justin Jarrett. For Rich Basirico and Curry Kirkpatrick, thanks for joining us. Onto the bus.